Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Alongside me now is my co-host and colleague, and he is well, he is better, his throat is clear, so his voice is a melody, probably to some very loyal viewers, is Mr. Sean Michael Small. He's in the hot seat this morning. Good morning, Sean. Welcome back to the studio.
Yes, I mean, we were here on Thursday, you know. It's good to be back.
Well, welcome back.
The irony is, I was trying to warn people, you know, beware of school reopening, or need to not get out of my house quite at the time that I would have preferred. Let's put it that way. And then on top of that, I think when it now starts, the traffic situation is a little bit worse because everybody gets caught a little bit unawares and has to figure out their most optimal time. So it is what it is. My lesson to learn, my fault, my mistake. But it's also a cloudy day, a rainy day here in Trinidad and Tobago, folks. And I mean, I appreciate it. I like the somewhat cooler weather. Hopefully, you know, the interesting part, of course, is that when we have too much heavy rains, we do have issues with our water supply, believe it or not. When we have rain, we have water issues. When we don't have rain, we have water issues. It's just one more of those things that I would have preferred to be cleared up. And it just goes back to what we were talking about last week, Friday, where the development is not being seen. And now the question is, as citizens, we do have to ask ourselves, who do we believe? Government, opposition, unions, activists, whoever. And I think one of the interesting things is you get into this trap where because I believe one side on one thing, all of a sudden I have to believe them on everything. And I'm not assessing situations based on, well, look at the government. There was the situation with sandals. That's different to the situation with the ferries when they now came into office. That's different to the situation on crime. That's different to the situation on how they handle COVID, which is different to the situation on how they're handling the economy now. And we see in the news, economy declines by 4%. Some of the commentary coming out of Independence Day celebrations is the systematic decline of our economy over the last decade. And I understand that people will want to be for and against hardline, for and against the government, but I think we really need to understand that we can't afford that sort of thing anymore.
Well, let's put aside that level of politics for a moment, and let's focus on the real issue here because you mentioned so many things, and it ties into management, of course, management of the economy, management of our resources, management of our infrastructure. With respect to water, I always found it peculiar myself that given that when there is heavy rainfall, we see the water supply being disrupted. Oftentimes we hear from the Water and Sewerage Authority that that is because, well, because of the level of flooding and because of how our system is and because of the drainage infrastructure in Trinidad and Tobago, essentially we lock off water to ensure that no dirty or uncleansed or untreated water gets into the system. That I understand, that is to our benefit. What I don't understand is that in this day and age, in the year of 2022, the mere fact that our drainage is so poor, the mere fact that we have such great floods to the extent that that has to take place. Already we don't have a reliable 24/7 supply, so therefore when rain falls and water is in abundance, then guess what? We are still dry, our taps run dry. So that is the simple explanation for that. You mentioned the economy. The Central Statistical Office reporting that our economy for the first quarter of the year declined by 4%. The Minister of Finance, Colm Imbers, in his spotlight on the economy on Friday, also mentioned that our economy is now seeing a greater control, a greater growth coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Okay, bear in mind that his reasoning may be, well, listen, the lockdowns just ended. We've now fully reopened. Schools have reopened. Everybody's now back out to it. Everything is back in operation. So that may be his thinking. But let me be quite clear. I never expected anything more than the Minister of Finance basically holding a spotlight on the economy pre-budget for fiscal year 2022-2023, all that as part of public relations. I never expected it to come and give us the entire truth of the reality of the situation. I expected him to come and essentially display and actually promote the disconnect between himself as a minister and this government with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I expected him to come and speak about rainbows and unicorns and ponies. I did not expect him to come and speak about reality or the truth. And so said, so done. So as far as I'm concerned, spending 4 hours at the Hyatt Regency Hotel to give us a spotlight on the economy not only was bad economics in terms of an absolute waste of money, an absolute waste of time, and an absolute waste of resources, but you are essentially misleading the people. You are misguiding the people. And because you have gotten so much, and this goes into everything that you said in relation to mismanagement and mistrust amongst the people, because we've gotten to a state of normalcy about lying to the people of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of government after government, in terms of actually not having that level of skill to manage, not having that level of thinking to actually evolve. Because we've grown so accustomed to that, I did not and I do not expect anything different. In fact, I think this budget that we are about to see is only going to see greater improvement in terms of expenditure for housing and expenditure. Notice what I said. It's an allocation. It's expenditure for social services. Would we see an improvement in the delivery of housing, an improvement in the delivery of social services, an improvement in the quality of healthcare, an improvement in national security? No. But what we will see is an election budget. What we will see is a propaganda campaign, as was the Spotlight economy. And what we will see again is a total misleading of the population.
I know quite a few people in Tobago with jobs that were not very impressive at the end of the day figure out a way to get their own home, right? Now maybe timing is part of it, because I remember my father always wants to compare his sons to when he was growing up, but it's like, hold on, the economies of the situation and the circumstances, particularly since he wasn't necessarily comparing us in the same country, by the way, are not the same. So I say that the opportunities that so many people who I knew were able to do it in Tobago with what were essentially entry-level or just a little 1 or 2 steps beyond entry-level jobs, that might not be practical in Tobago right now, right? So let me couch that. However, I do have to wonder if government providing housing right now should be a priority when there apparently seems to be far too many citizens who are concerned about what they're going to eat for the next week or even for the next day. When we've reached that point where cost of food is a significant crisis, Keaton, I do wonder if certain social safety nets need to be reevaluated because, okay, we could get somebody a house, but if that family doesn't critically need one right now, wouldn't the need of a family that might starve for a week be technically more important or more immediate? Right now, I mean, in the long run, yes, both have a need.
You see, you use two terms there. First of all, as you mentioned, food. There was the Agri Expo, which I had great faith and confidence in, and I still do, because it will take some time. I see it as a start. Bear in mind, this is the second edition. But I see it as a start, and I hope to see a continuation of such. And though there was the promotion of that expo, listen to me when I say that there has been no promotion of agriculture, no promotion of food and nutrition security here in Trinidad and Tobago. And nobody could look at me and tell me, well, listen, they have the box lunch school feeding program. No, that's not a promotion of nutrition and food security. That is a service of which we're grateful for, because at the end of the day, no child should starve. But you see that word, which is key. You see that word opportunity that you just used? My parents did the same thing to me, and I'm pretty sure it's similar with everybody out there, where I wouldn't say that they compared, but they always used the example of when they were a young couple, when they were just married, or when they just came out of university, they struggled. You know, we built this house, we laid every single brick, the mortar, we paid for every single cent went into this. And there were days that we had to make a decision of whether or not we could afford a soft drink or a newspaper at lunchtime. You know, there were days when and I'm thinking to myself, they struggled. But this generation is going to struggle a lot more, because those who came before us had greater opportunity. Those who came before us had better opportunity, and they had greater safety nets than we do now. Because even for young couples, which I find very strange, by the way, a phenomenon is taking place where I find a lot of younger couples are getting engaged and married quickly. I don't know for what reason. I hope it's for love. I hope it's for genuine reasons. My thinking was, okay, listen, there is a certain safety net between two salaries for one household rather than one salary for one household. So maybe that may be the case. Who knows? That may be part of the reasoning behind it. But even now, young couples can't go back to their parents to stay under the house, or to stay as part of the home, because the household cannot simply be afforded to run in that way. So the opportunity that there was before, there's no opportunity like that now.
I think the easiest way to sum it up is the opportunity to buy land around Port of Spain. Think about it. What it was in the Marvel area, in the Cascade area, in the St. Anne's area, in the Digger Martin area, what it was 40 years ago is not going to be there now. The opportunity to get a job, to get a significant job and to go up the ranks in the corporate world in Trinidad with just O-levels. Well, no, now people need masters. Now people need to have significant paper qualifications, for lack of a better word, right? Whereas in the past, some of the CEOs, I would hazard, I guess, did not have these qualifications, or at least previous ones, maybe not necessarily ones right now, possibly did not have masters. I don't even know if they had bachelors, or at least a lot of business owners didn't. But it's easy to be one of the first newspapers, and it blows up into the Express or the Guardian or the Newsday, or one of the first fast food franchises, or one of the first clothing stores, or one of the first what have you, right? But you try opening up a restaurant now, yeah, you see all these people making money off of food, but they still exist. Everything is oversaturated. One of the ironies of GATE is that doctors, dentists, lawyers are oversaturated. And the opportunities are not necessarily there. That's why we have a brain drain. Meanwhile, going back to the finance minister, as much as you want to call out, and I do it too, their communication and their communication style, government, opposition, all politicians, I always want to come back to the point that what they do gets them elected. And they behave in the manner that they behave because their base just eats it all up. Because it fools some of the people most of the time. You know, so that whole saying we had on Potwell Junction where you could fool all the people somebody time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Well, they're fool enough.
I disagree with you.
Enough.
I disagree with you.
Vote, it works because they get the votes.
Here's why I disagree with you. I agree with the principle of what you're explaining. I disagree with the point. The point being that what they do is what gets them elected. Unfortunately, it's not what they do that gets them elected, it's how we think that gets them elected.
Well, basically, that's the point. They feed back to the public what the public tells them that they want.
Sure.
And they tell them what they want by voting for them.
Let me use a prime example. We're seeing a report in the newspapers about this government since 2015 racking up billions of dollars. So, well, oh God, let me not exaggerate, not billions, but $1 billion in legal fees.
Right.
Right? Bear in mind that the former Attorney General also went after the People's Partnership and how much money that they spent in legal fees.
Yes.
Guess what? It doesn't matter that they did it as well. Their action, that doesn't matter.
No,
What's going to matter is people at the end of the day saying, well, listen, the reason why this government had to rack up so much money is because, one, the opposition probably not supporting legislation, so we need more lawyers to come on board. This is how people will probably think, to probably get an easier way to pass legislation. Two, at the end of it all, this government has to hire more attorneys because they have to clean up and deal with the mess from the previous administration. That is the thinking.
No, there might be some truth to that. There might be some truth to that.
There may be some truth to that. But the way...
Keyword some.
But the way that we see that people think, at the end of the day, if you're yellow and I'm red...
It's the absolutism.
It's the same thing. We could do the same exact thing. Your side will criticize me, my side will criticize you. It's how people think. And
well, I have more to say about this, of what the Minister of Finance said, but...
We'll expand on it, actually, right after this.
Delivered nationwide. Kiss enriched bread.
Fill your day with love. Chantwell Vibes, a musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. Featuring 3 Canal, Mavis John, Ataclan, Empress Ajay, Stacy Sobers, and panist Natasha Joseph. Tickets $300. Available at Crosby's Music Center, St. James. Extra Foods, Arima, Grand Bazaar, and Endeavour. Online at Island E-Tickets. Committee members at 678-2843 or 482-3111. Central Bank box office on the day of the event. Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Marte Main Road, La Puerta. A musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the interesting things is the Minister of Finance consistent claims that the economy is growing, or phrases to that effect, or phrases that allude to that concept. And one of the things that I found very funny, I don't know to what extent maybe details of his phrases are left out, because unfortunately politicians do have this tendency to ramble a bit. Sometimes they forget key points that they were supposed to make. They might even have to be reminded of it by the media. I remember that happened to the Prime Minister at one point. Somebody had to remind him the whole point of the press conference. He forgot because he was on other things that were important, yes, but the point is sometimes context might be lost. That said, I have yet to see it for myself. And I am not about to go through every single thing the Minister of Finance says every single time he says something to ensure that I get the correct context. I am hoping that the media does a solid on him. And more importantly, please be more specific, because we are coming out of a period where our economy was essentially shut down, or at least significant parts of it. So when something is shut down, it's at zero. When it goes to 20% capacity, that's technically growth. That's not 100%. So I do wonder, with regards to the Minister of Finance, exactly where is he getting these numbers from? What numbers is he looking at numbers from 2020 to 2022? Is that the growth he's talking about? Is that the spin that he's trying to put on us? Now, to be fair, this is what he has to say, particularly to his party supporters. I understand that. And perhaps, unfortunately, our politicians lack the finesse and the grace and, you know, the charisma to truly know how to craft a message that is truthful without necessarily, you know, cutting themselves off at their own ankles. But that's unfortunately the deficiency of our politicians and the people that who we vote for. And their communication style, as I said in the previous segment, is dictated on what we accept. But my point again still stands. What exactly is he looking at to compare this growth? Where is this growth coming from? Because at the end of the day, I would like to know how do we compare now from the years 2018, 2019, maybe even 2017. Now, it might not be fair to necessarily compare us to 2013, right? But at the start of the administration, pre-COVID levels, we were under strain, right? Did we see improvements from when we were under strain before COVID, when we had foreign exchange problems, when we had energy revenue problems, to now? Maybe we have. If you give us that nugget, Mr. Finance Minister, that would be more appreciated than just words without context. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did give us the context, and I am totally incorrect. However, this is not the first time he's tried to pass this messaging off. This lack of detail, Keaton, I think is a problem that bothers me, and it goes back to a question I had earlier. Why don't we ask our politicians to debate each other? Because when they wanted to have dueling press conferences a couple of weeks ago, I think it was either early this month or in July, that was somewhat ridiculous. That was somewhat ridiculous. Get your details, not just your hyperbole of, oh, greatest evil and wicked this and wicked that, and these criminals and the people are suffering. No. Why, how, where, when, what? Detailed. And debate it. No. Bring your claims and your evidence and debate it.
That is too easy to put politicians to debate each other, and I'm starting to understand this and learn it more and more as day passes. This may sound a bit arrogant, and by no means am I trying to sound too pompous here or trying to toot our own horn, but debate us. Debate us?
No, we need to moderate.
I'll tell you why.
No, we need to moderate.
Debate, because at the end of the day, at the end of it all, maybe that comes across arrogant. Maybe we might end up looking like fools. Maybe they'll blow us away straight in a debate. But put it this way, I had a prime example of, I think is Ravi Ratiram. 2 weeks ago made a statement that agriculture had no future here in Trinidad and Tobago. I said, whoa, that's a huge statement to make. I called him up. Okay, no problem, I'll come tomorrow. Hold on, I can't come tomorrow, I have things to do. Okay, great, I'll come the following day. I called him the following day just to confirm. He never responded to my WhatsApp messages. He never took my calls again. Even on the morning of the show, I called him, and he never did it. And that tells me because they cannot come and talk about it. They can go to the media and make a statement, and the newspapers will do their job and take it word for word and report it. There is no analysis. It's the same thing with the Minister of Finance. So if Ravi Ratigram wants to shy away after making such big comments, but just making it because he's a politician, but cannot come talk about it, that's one thing. Is the Minister of Finance as well? If the Minister of Finance could come and say that we're doing so well and we're recovering so well post-COVID-19 pandemic, come and debate that. Because my first question to you will be, listen, oil and gas production has been low. The only reason why we remained afloat is because of global energy prices climbing due to the unfortunate situation between Russia and Ukraine. And there are other factors.
I would say now it's beyond that. Now it's Russia and Europe.
There are other factors as well, as you just pointed out. There's OPEC as well, actually right now controlling the supply as well. So there are other factors. So put that all in together. I'm going to ask him, listen, Guyana has seen economic growth for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Trinidad and Tobago has seen growth, the obvious reason being what's taking place globally, but our production levels are low. So when it is, or if it is, energy prices go down to a flat, let's just use that, let's say $40 a barrel. It goes to $40 a barrel. Let's just say it by that. At what point are you going to come and tell us the truth? Because prices are low, we do not have the supply because our production is low.
When prices went down in early 2020, I believe January, I think, he had a press conference, it was down as low as $20 a barrel. He is trying to say, well, it's not our fault, it's $20 a barrel. But now that prices are high, and here is the irony, Keaton. Of course, the chain of events with regards to the previous administration, energy revenue was high, and then it dipped just before the change of government, I think, is what some people would say. And the PNM inherited a situation with significant deficits of the budget from the very beginning. So I get that. That is a reasonable defense of the PNM's first term, with regards to some things, some, not all. However, if we take that to be true, right? If we want to say, well, it's energy revenues and they had more and we had less. Now that revenue goes up. So for them, it's an excuse. But for us, it is the genius of the government somehow pulling an energy crisis and cost of energy out of their proverbial you-know-where. Because right now, I believe Nord Stream 1 is cut. And the situation, the tit for tat between Europe and Russia with regards to natural gas and energy prices, it's going to have a further trickle-down effect. We might actually see prices rise again, depending on the situation, especially because of winter coming up. France has put on, apparently they have backtracked and are looking to restart all of their nuclear power plants again, which might do a significant, might make a significant dent in the demands of energy in Europe. But my point is, you're going to take credit. Because notice, he doesn't necessarily try to say that it's the government, but he's saying things are good, things are fine, we're doing great. Why? Because of something we have no control over. Oh, okay, what does that mean? And what are we going, your question, I think people need to understand, is even more pertinent. And do you have a plan if things go the opposite way by some other unforeseen circumstance that you can't figure out?
Softly? This Minister of Finance does not seem to understand the basic tenets of supply and demand. And that's the first thing you learn in economics. No. Regardless of his qualifications as an engineer, as a field engineer.
I mean, that's true, yes. I don't have an economics degree either.
The basic tenet, what they teach you, is supply and demand. This man doesn't understand that the demand is there, but we do have the supply. Our production levels have dropped. He seriously doesn't understand that. So the Minister of Finance is nothing more than a propaganda, public relations machine of this government. He has always been that way.
No,
hold on.
He's also a gatekeeper of financial resources.
And kudos to him. Where I will give him credit, and I can't believe I'm actually giving him credit, is the mere fact that the man could talk.
No.
The mere fact the man could speak.
To be fair, and I believe it was Mr. Mariano Brown who said this, right? He was one of the few people in the country that would have had the capability, for a lot of different reasons, to ensure that the government doesn't overspend or doesn't try to be even more irresponsible than it is.
You mean overspend on other contracts that are not his own?
Just in general.
At the end of the day,
because cuts needed to be made.
I have always said it. Fitzgerald Hines and Colin Imbert, where I will always give them credit, is that they have the gift of the gab. Somebody disagree with me, I don't mind. They have that gift. But that's just about the only gifts that they have and the only thing that they can offer, which gets us nowhere at the end of the day. Now, while we have 5 minutes left before we have to take our next break, I just want to quickly shift across.
Well, hold on. You could say that for debate because I want to go back to the point of debates. And I would like to say that, no. I think the media should moderate the debates, be unbiased, ask questions, make sure that the questions get answered and not sidestepped, and have the politicians go head to head. And we could separate, right, the goats from the sheep. Because at this point, I feel as though they get away with too much, and it's easy to avoid the media. But when a politician calls out another politician, and the person decides, I'm too scared to face my opposition directly in front of the public, I think that might now be a little bit something that could help indicate who really has something important to say and knows what they're talking about, and who could just talk buzzwords off of flashcards on nonsense. Because right now, we have trade union leaders who more or less do that. Basically, most everybody, except maybe the economists and the technocrats, they just have buzzword flashcards that they say. What do the unions say? Whoever doesn't care about the people, what does tutor say? The government doesn't care about the kids. Don't any PTA is trying to tell tutor, hey, what about caring for the kids? What about caring for the kids, people? What about caring for the kids? But be that as it may, let them debate and let them reveal their weaknesses. And if you can't talk, it's not my fault.
Well, quite frankly, I have nothing more to add to this. I will just simply be repeating myself. And I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm probably good at doing it, but I don't want to do it anymore. You know what? So let's take a commercial break early on the program. And when we return, well, I'll get into what I was going to get into just now, but my co-host said, let's take a break. Let's take a break.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Chantwell Vibes, a musical tribute to Andre Tanker, Saturday, September 24th, 2022, Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. Featuring Three Canal, Mavis John, Ataclan, Empress Ajay, Stacy Sobas, and panist Natasha Joseph. Tickets $300. Available at Crosby's Music Center, St. James. Extra Foods, Arima, Grand Bazaar, and Endeavour. Online at Island E-Tickets. Committee members at 678-2843 or 482-3111. Central Bank box office on the day of the event. Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Martin Main Road, La Puerta. A musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m.
Well, schools are open this morning. The Minister of Education has indicated that a means test initiative will be implemented very soon so that 7,000 laptops could be distributed. When I say very soon, I mean this week. 7,000 laptops could be distributed to students and teachers who are in need. This is in addition to 40,000 devices that were distributed over the last 2 years. Bear in mind, those 40,000 devices, many of them did not come from the Ministry of Education, and a lot of it came through donations. Even COVID-19 financing through donations and grants was given to the Ministry of Education over the last 2 years to provide laptops and devices. The thing is, create X and all well and good, but you see this level of pushing now to ensure that students in need gets laptops is something that needs to be done over the last 2 years. And I know there's a cost associated with procuring these devices, and I totally understand that we're pushing for digital transformation. But all I'm stating is that if this is the first, I hope it is not the last. And if I had seen more of this initiative taking place over the last 2 years, I would have been satisfied. So I'm not critiquing I'm not criticizing the initiative by the ministry. By no means am I stating that. I'm just stating that it could have been done sooner. The second aspect is they've indicated that schools, over 120 schools were identified for repairs. All have been done, less the Scarborough Secondary School, which will remain closed for 1 more week. I don't know why 1 more week. We had 2 years in which students weren't at schools. Okay, bear in mind, for half a term, we had students who were there from Forms 5 to Form 6. You mean to tell me that in 2 years, we still have schools opening late?
Yeah. Now,
wonderful.
We have revenue problems, and in light of those revenue problems, right, giving out laptops. I understand the need to give out devices during COVID because, listen, school essentially ground to a halt for those that had no access to online classes. There was no school. So I understand that, and we didn't know when COVID was going to be over. We didn't know how schools were going to reopen. I get that. 7,000 laptop keytons. Even if the laptops are as cheap as $2,000 per unit, that's still $14 million. Are we going to, on top of the bill that the Ministry of Education, which they don't seem to be able to play, that's why AFCL went defunct, that's why apparently MTS seems to be racking up bill after bill. So for all of these repair works that was done, I would like to know, were they paid for? Or are the contractors' bills outstanding? Now, on top of that now, you're going to put potentially, at minimum, it's going to be $7 million. I don't think a laptop is going to be cheaper than $1,000, right? But I believe a laptop might be more within the range of $2,000 to $3,000, maybe even $4,000, depending on its capabilities. And you're talking $14 million to $21 million a pop. The problem is not $21 million or $40 million. The problem is that's annually. Because is 7,000 even the entire Form 1 class of the nation? Is it just 7,000?
You've got...
I'm pretty sure we have more than 7,000.
Between 40 and 45 students per class, and you've got roughly 3 classrooms for every year. So if you add that up, that is what? Between about 135 students, give or take probably 10 in Form 1. Over 120 schools, that's what we're saying. We probably have less secondary schools. So yeah, it probably adds up to about 7,000.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But regardless, that's still at least every year. I don't know if that is sustainable. I would have understood if the government made more of an effort to make schools a more digital environment and to figure out a way to slowly transition how things are taught. Because, like, look, when I went to Roy Tech, they had a computer lab. You didn't have a computer, you could do the work in the lab. Now, in terms of Roy Tech, and granted, these are people who at least were above the age of 16. The facilities were made available. You could be there all night doing work, accessing the computers if necessary, right? I'm not saying that we're going to necessarily do that for secondary school kids, but my point is have the facilities in school, right? And then figure out more manageable ways to give kids access slowly but surely in a sustainable way, as opposed to we're just going to give out laptops.
I think what it is...
Because is that kind of thinking is what has gotten us in trouble. We spend all of this money on variable expenses and not on capital expenses.
There has been an appreciation for the need. There's been a need for government to address the situation surrounding the cost of going back to school for quite some time. We've addressed it on this program.
Yes.
Even a week before you went,
Yes.
So there's that.
I have a couple of friends who have that issue.
Right.
Yeah, went through that.
So, I mean, even here at the station, we had a couple parents who had to spend thousands of dollars on one child alone to buy books for them to go back to school. Sometimes they don't even use half the textbook.
Textbooks
or the teacher
are a scam.
use.
Textbooks are such a scam right now.
If
wait, hold on. I just want to segue. That's another thing. You have the information on the internet. Do we really need textbooks now if you're giving them laptops?
Hold on. This is the point. If there was a program where the government doesn't have to fork out $14 million annually, but let's just say they cut that in half by $7 million, there's an initiative in which parents put forward half the price and the government puts forward half the price. Because if you're going for digital transformation, I understand that the government has to fork out money. It's going to be some while before parents can afford to purchase devices for themselves. But if parents are willing to spend half that money, which is significantly less than the amount they spend on school supplies and textbooks and whatnot, and on those devices, there are the e-books. On those devices, there are the apps in which students can go and do their work with their teacher in real time, via the device, in the classroom, however you like it to be. I am sure parents will be willing to spend that money. And I'm sure that helps with digital transformation.
I am very certain that you could get definitions and teaching materials for secondary school subjects online from free sources if the teacher was inventive and productive enough, right? Because you could get that stuff for tertiary level students. Okay. I'll tell you right now, I don't buy textbooks either for my last degree or for my next degree. I figure it out. I find this stuff online. And hey, by the way, the teacher actually has to teach things. So I don't necessarily need a book to teach me, right? If I need references, now sometimes teachers go so far as to have their own notes at tertiary level. I get it. Maybe for secondary school, just the amount of stuff, we're not talking 15 once a week, we're talking 360, well, not 365 days, but you know what I mean, right? A significant portion of the year. But still, you could find stuff online. And then, I guess this is to back up your point. The money for textbooks, which at this point seems to be a waste. What number of editions they have now of textbook A or textbook B? The 15th edition where they change some vocabulary and they add one more fact. Nonsense and BS.
All right, okay, let me just state this, and this might come as a surprise. When I went to university, as a student of political science, it's actually one of those degrees, for example, like law and medicine, and even journalism, in which you purchase textbook upon textbook. You have to reference this book. You have to read that book. There's so many political theories. There's so many theories as it relates to geopolitics. There's so many theories for everything. You have to study it. You have to find reference. At no point in time did we have to purchase a textbook. Because as you just mentioned, not only will lecturers go out of their way to get the clipping of the textbook, or even say you can find it available via this website, right? The e-book, this is legal. I'm not talking about any legal means. It is legal. At no point in time did we have to go and spend a tertiary education textbook's about $500.
Keaton, when I needed to look up definitions and reference material, if it was not in the slides of the class, and I do believe Fatima has e-classroom boards, so I'm sure that their teachers are making use of those with significant teaching material, right?
I think Lakshmi Girls also had the very first.
Right.
Because Huawei donated it, yeah.
Right, so between that and there's this thing called Google, and we're thinking about digital transformation, right? And you could literally, now granted, yes, this is where the teacher comes in to make sure that the students don't look up the wrong thing and misinterpret the information. But you could do the same thing with a textbook.
You can't believe every single thing from Google.
Yeah, but you could do the same thing with a textbook. If you were a textbook by yourself, you could get the wrong conclusions as to what the concept is supposed to be, and you could need the teacher, right? And furthermore, they have trusted sites, if you know, and that's part of digital transformation as well, folks. Media literacy, or you could argue in this case, internet media literacy, or the ability to access information on the internet, which is, I think, is going to replace literacy as the new benchmark of the ability of our society's people to navigate the world, because you need to be able to understand and assess so much more information now. But to some extent, we had to do that in the past because books could have been published in the past. A lot of nonsense.
What about the flip side? About us also promoting reading now. What about the flip side of that? Because if you go online, you're not harnessing the skills as much as I will open a paper and read.
You know how much I read online? Now, to be fair, you could look up things on YouTube and find teaching videos on to some extent, to some high degree concepts. Now, granted, if you're going to be a doctor or an electrical engineer or something like that, you might still need to have to go through school to ensure that the certificate or the degree or the doctorate now is not to say I know what I'm talking about, but it's not to give you the information. It's really to say that this institution guarantees that I am capable, so you, the public, could look at me and assess me based on that guarantee, right? Fair enough. But my point is, and again, we're talking about secondary school. Right? So we know that it could be done for tertiary. Why can't it be done for secondary? And the reason why I say that is, you said $1,000 for textbooks, in some cases even more. I don't even want to know what Form 4, Form 5 is like, right? That money could go to a digital device.
I told you, there's so many arguments towards this you wouldn't believe. That's why I said, as much as you're stating, okay, the government has to spend $14 million on this.
The government gives us laptops. Who's giving us internet? Do all the families have internet?
No, well, that was a problem. That was a problem with the COVID-19 pandemic. That was a problem as well. And even so.
Now, to be fair, there's something to be said about when your situation, where the scope of the problem is so large, it's more complex and it's a lot harder to figure out solutions. And I think this goes back to a criticism I had a couple of months ago. I'm telling you right now, one of the biggest underlying problems we have in this country is the education system. It might even be worse than anything else you think of. It might even be worse than crime, and we just don't know, right? The way how it's being run seems to be very inefficient. The way how the Ministry of Education is making adjustments to the syllabus on an annual basis seems to be very inefficient. The workload of our teachers, to be fair to the teachers, not the teachers union, but to the teachers, right, might be way overblown. The demands of the examinations on our students might be now, it might reach the point where we do have to start asking these questions. We have had people asking these questions about SCA. I don't know about
you had Hanif Benjamin on AM Prime this morning stating that it is a cruel, evil exam. Secondary entrance assessment.
When I did common entrance, Keaton.
Sean, before the COVID-19 pandemic started, before COVID-19 hit the shores of Trinidad and Tobago, we were having consultations about the SCA program. Bear in mind, COVID-19 would have slowed the process down. We have had consultation after consultation, which goes into the interview with Laura Contrell Thomas this morning on AM Prime as well, where she said, it's just falling on deaf ears. It's just noise. Keaton, so, who's going to listen?
When I did common entrance, Keaton, a while ago, it's common entrance, not SCA, that's a datement, right? The majority of my class was in tears when we got the results. We got the results in a classroom, you know, I mean, it was in the middle of the school, but it was 4 lines and it was shut off or sequestered from all of the other students, right?
It was the same thing with me.
Right? Yeah. And there was no announcement, by the way. They did not like, I don't believe they trotted out people who went to the school, who went to that school. Private school, so, and a lot of students were in tears. Some of whom went to what I believe the bulk of the population might seem as good, reasonably good schools. Right? But they were in tears. And this whole thing about competing and comparing yourself to other people. And then on top of that now, and I do think that when I went to secondary school, when I went to Fatima, Form 1, a lot of guys in my class, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but quite a few of them, they repeated common entrance. And I felt as though, I wondered, did they get the results because they repeated and had that extra year of experience, but they weren't necessarily ready for academics once they got into secondary school? They passed the test, they were trained to pass the test, but they weren't necessarily trained for academics. And they struggled from after term 1 Like you just knew the guys who were struggling in Form 1 were the guys who were struggling in Form 5.
Sure.
And they didn't seem to have any real way to remedy that situation and to help them.
All right, let me take the opportunity here to point out the fact that you said that they were trained for the exam, but that is how our education system is now. Education system is no longer teaching students how to think, how to analyze. You're training them to study for the SE. You're training them to study for CSEC. You know, put it this way, at the end of it all, in primary school, they will only take guidance from their parents and teachers. At that age, they're not going to think all for themselves. And that is where we fail them. Students are not learning to take the time to develop their critical thinking skills because they're not being given that opportunity. From the time you enter primary school and you get past your first year and your second year of infants, you're instantly put into that seat where we're training you for this exam. And that's the cruelty behind our education system. So truthfully, education in Trinidad and Tobago, and perhaps around the world, but if we are to focus on Trinidad and Tobago alone, education is not really education. It is stuffing knowledge down the throats of students without allowing them to develop their skills in which they can realize knowledge and learn for their own selves.
But not just that, Keaton. My standard 1 teacher who taught me, she didn't have a teaching assistant, but she had one before COVID. And she had to work through her break. And she had to work through her lunch. She didn't have to do that when she taught me. We were fine, right? We didn't have any developmental problems on the syllabus. But before COVID, 2019, early 2020, she told me she has an assistant. They're both overworked. They're just struggling to keep up. And then by the end of the academic year, the Ministry of Education will make some change to the syllabus all over again. And they will have to start to figure out their lesson plan and their teaching plan for the year all over again. She has to work through breaks. She has to work through lunch. So it's not just the students who are under strain. It's the teachers as well. And right now, this is why I have a problem with the unions. What are they debating? They only debate about money. They're not debating about the conditions of the job. They're not telling us or cluing us in as to how teaching is going. It seems, it's almost like if they don't actually care about that part. You know? It's almost as if teacher does not care about the children. Oh, did I say it out loud? I'm sorry.
Actually, I think you made a good point. At no point in time have I heard any union at all, such as tutor, actually speak about the quality of education in Trinidad, because they wouldn't.
Or the SE exam.
Because they wouldn't.
Because they want to check.
Sean, understand something. Teachers going to school, teachers that they are now are not teachers like a long time ago. I'm not even afraid to admit it. What I experienced and what you would have experienced was the creme de la creme of teachers.
Now, I know a few, including at least one young teacher. Shout out to my boy. I won't say your name on air, but you know who you are.
You're shouting out to him and you won't
say I don't want to just, you know.
Right? No, but I am telling you, the quality of teachers, and I could go back to my secondary school, and a lot of the old class of teachers have now gone. We have the younger generation. They don't simply care to teach anymore. It seems as though many a times, and maybe I'm wrong for labeling all like this, because you're right, they're not all of them are like that. But it seems as though the majority of them just come to class, will talk, do not care. Some of them will talk about themselves as though they have to fuel their ego. I experienced that many times. And this is the thing. The quality of education, tutor will never ever argue against.
Because they want that check.
Because they want that check. You're absolutely right. Anyway, folks, listen, we have to break for news on the hour here on WESN. And, well, when we return, we'll open up the phone lines. Stay tuned to the program. This is your WESN News on the Hour. Thank you for joining us. Here are the headlines. Tobago Education Secretary tells parents send children to school despite calls for strike. Opposition Member of Parliament questions government's COVID finances. Suspect in fake police robbery charge. And in international news, Canada rocked by deadly stabbings. With the details, I'm Keaton Shaw. Tobago Education Secretary Orlando Kerr is calling on parents to ignore the fact that teachers may heed the call by tutor to stay away from classes today. Speaking on the issue on Sunday, Kerr said school will be reopened today as scheduled and he expects a good student turnout.
From the perspective of the Division of Education, Monday is a school day. As far as we are aware, school is going to be in progress on Monday. We are not going to advise parents not to have children come out to school, right? We are going to do the responsible thing. School is on Monday. Teachers are expected to be at school on Monday. We are cognizant of the fact that some of the teachers may respond to the call by the association, but we are saying that Monday is a school day, it's the first day of school, and students are expected to be at school.
Opposition Member of Parliament Devendranath Tanku is questioning the government's COVID-19 expenditure. He listed a number of funds spent and withdrawn specifically for COVID-19.
Based on the HSF reports made in Parliament between October 2020 and June 2021, a total of $500 million or 3.4 billion TT was actually withdrawn from the bank accounts of the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, specifically for COVID expenditure. More than that, an additional 1.4 billion TT was received from international agencies, including CAF, World Bank, CDC, and the government of China, for COVID-related expenditure.
Speaking at the opposition's weekly press conference, Tanku called on the Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, to give a proper breakdown of COVID-19 expenditures.
I challenge the Minister today to tell the country exactly how much money then was borrowed and for what specific purpose, because it would appear that between the grants provided by international agencies and the HSF drawdowns for which the Minister does not have to repay, the government's alleged COVID stimulus package was fully funded.
Extensive efforts by officers of the Central Division have led to breakthrough in the robbery incident involving men purporting to be police officers. Anthony Hoyt, 30 years old, of Rostonia, Couva, is expected to appear before the Shogunas Magistrates Court today to answer to 3 counts of robbery with violence, 2 counts of assault with intent to rob, and 1 count of robbery with aggravation, and 5 counts of false imprisonment. According to reports, a group of 5 men dressed in what appear to be police tactical wear and armed approached a man at Derrick Road, Chase Village, and announced a robbery. The men then allegedly took the man to a nearby residence where they relieved him of his cellular phone. The suspects allegedly then entered the house where they bound 2 of the 3 occupants and relieved them of a quantity of cash and jewelry. In international news, at least 10 people have been killed and 15 injured in a stabbing rampage in Canada's Saskatchewan province, police say. The victims were found in 13 different locations, including in the James Smith Cree Nation and nearby Weldon. 2 suspects named as Damian Sanderson and Miles Sanderson are on the run and considered armed and dangerous. Residents have been told to shelter in place as a massive manhunt continues across the vast area of the province. And that's news of the hour here on WESN. Thank you for watching. We'll have more for you at the top of the hour.
Chantwell Vibes, a musical tribute to Andre Tanker, Saturday, September 24th, 2022, Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. Featuring 3 Canal, Mavis John, Ataclan, Empress Ajay, Stacey Sobers, and panist Natasha Joseph. Tickets $300. Available at Crosby's Music Center, St. James, Extra Foods, Rima, Grand Bazaar and Endeavour. Online at Island E-Tickets. Committee members at 678-2843 or 482-3111. Central Bank box office on the day of the event. Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Marte Main Road, La Puerta. A musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN Content Capital. Usually I thank our head of news, Denise St. Clair, for news on the hour, and I will still thank her because she compiled it this morning, so thank you very much to her for her continued dedication and hard work. By the way, good luck to you, because you know, as a mother, your 2 kids are out to school today, so all the best to them. But with that being said, let us open up the phone lines this morning, ladies and gentlemen, and call in and join us on Talking Point. Share with us your opinion and thoughts of the conversations of the day, or if there's anything else that you'd like to contribute to the national discussion. Well, we'd love to hear from you. But something we haven't done in a while, the man is now here to give you the question of the day.
Yes, folks, I mean, given that today is the first day of school and, you know, teachers are asked to rest and reflect, we want to ask you, the viewers, what are your thoughts on tutors calling for teachers to rest and reflect on the first day of the academic year? Keaton, I mean, you need a vacation from your vacation. I don't understand. Now, granted, you know, some people that might be true, but, you know.
I never understood what rest and reflect mean. You know, I wonder if the CPO stayed home to have a day of rest and reflection, if tutor will be okay with that.
I want to know if the person that cuts their checks had a day of rest and reflection on payday, what they would think about that.
Caller on the line with us from Claxton Bay. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Keaton and Small.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
You know, I was wondering, I thought, since we had that wonderful Diamond Jubilee the other day, I thought I'd really see the opposition put away her differences and say, hey, we will come out and support this situation because it's a 60-year-old anniversary. You know, I really thought she'd have come out and show the people, well, she's bigger than that. But I realized that it's not about country anymore. It's about party. So when we have a population who really believe, if you leading people in that direction, that is all about party, we have a difficult time in going forward in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I mean, no, but I alluded to that from almost the top of the show. The supporters are diehards, ride till I die, and they will not believe anything is wrong with their party. They will not. Their party has to be completely correct, no matter what.
Well, the caller...
And for all parties.
The caller brought up the opposition leader in her Independence Day message. I truly did not want to waste time on her and her message. But I will, out of respect for her being the leader of the opposition, comment on that. The mere fact that you can allude to TNT not gaining independence because what Britain was just handing back over colonies, or giving away colonies. That's basically what she said. May not be her direct words, but that's basically what she said. Mere fact that you would come out and say something like that. Why? Okay, first of all, you didn't say that when you were Prime Minister and the country was celebrating its 50th year of independence. And 2, you've completely gone bonkers, Mrs. Kamala Bissau-Bissessor. You've gone absolutely bonkers.
No, I mean...
That's not just an insult to Trinidad and Tobago.
To be fair, there's some truth in what she said. It's just I don't see the point. I don't see how that's relevant.
I don't see...
We got independence. Right? We didn't have to half of our young fighting age male population die.
We got independence because the UK was just giving away colonies.
Right. So, and?
We have a call
so what?
And we have a call on the line with us from Freeport. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Morning, caller.
Good morning, Sean. This is Denise.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Miss... Hello.
I'm calling to complain.
Complain to me.
Well, I took my son to school this morning, and to my surprise, after we made that long trek to his school in the rain, the school gates are shut tight, and the security is telling us no school.
Why?
Well, I guess we're resting and reflecting today.
Wow. I'm surprised the security officer was even there.
With me. And on top of that, my daughter went to school today. I'm not sure there are teachers there, but there are lots of students. But the school sent a schedule for her, giving her days on a roster of when she should attend school. So for this week alone, she only has school 2 days, because apparently the infrastructural work in the school was not completed within the 2 years of the pandemic that the school stayed closed. So now my daughter would be home by herself most days because we have a schedule, a roster for school now. I don't know if this is legal. Never heard the Ministry of Education say that. So it's really upsetting the way everything in this country is going right now.
Denise, just are you willing to reveal the names of your son's school and your daughter's school? Or you don't want to on air?
Sure. My son's school is Karapachama RC, and my daughter's school is Karapachama East Secondary.
And hold on, and the gates are closed. And bear in mind, Denise,
to be fair,
hold on. The Ministry of Education, when questioned on the repairs to school, indicated that school will continue as normal and repairs will be conducted on evenings or on weekends as is normal.
But Keaton, I don't know which one is worse, right? The primary school being closed, and to be fair, do you want your primary school students to be unattended because there are no teachers? Or the secondary schools being open and the teenagers are left unattended? I don't know which one is worse.
Both bad. And it's very upsetting. I'm laughing, but I'm very, very upset.
Well, the only thing you could probably do now is laugh, because, I mean, I'm so sorry, because, again, this is also going to have an effect on the students mentally. It's going to have an effect on parents. And it seems as though that...
COVID is over.
Denise, I'm going to let you go for now. I want to thank you for calling us on the program and giving us this update.
That was a good update because, as you said, didn't the government say everything was done, everything was fixed?
Thank you for sharing this. So the Minister of Education, Dr. Neil Gatsby Dolly, indicated, and she was actually questioned on this by a journalist about the school repair program. Her exact words were, schools will reopen as normal as is scheduled. Outstanding repairs will be completed on evenings or on weekends as is normal. Like, she doesn't realize that workers don't work on a weekend, but as is normal, good for her. Anyway, to now have to go to school and be given a schedule that you are to come to school these days because of ongoing repairs.
She said 2 days a week?
Right? No, these days.
No,
right?
But my point is the schedule for her.
Whatever it is.
2 days a week.
Whatever it is. We've had 2 years, and you mean to tell me that we couldn't see about the infrastructure, we couldn't see about the resources and school furniture over the last 2 years, and then Denise's son has to now go to school to realize that the gate is locked and there's no school today? Teachers really resting and reflecting. Guess what? Hold on.
They don't have a calling list. They don't have parents' phone numbers.
I respect
we
teachers.
We have cell phones now, you know.
Hold on, please, Sean. I respect teachers. I think the job they do is incredible, and there is a lot to get done. They are really those who are looking after the future of TNT. But you see nonsense like this? The next time a teacher has to go to the bank to get a statement, I hope that employee is resting and reflecting. The next time the teacher has to go to the grocery, I hope the cashier and all the attendants are resting and reflecting. What if the teacher gets into trouble and has to call the TTPS? If the officer tells them, listen, we're resting and reflecting, how is the teacher going to respond? If they go to a hospital and the doctor say, well, we're resting and reflecting, how are teachers going to respond? If anybody else were to tell teachers when they need to go for any service that they are resting and reflecting, how are they going to respond? They are going to get on, they're going to criticize, they are going to chastise, and at the end of it all, they wouldn't see that they are essentially doing the same thing to students. Because we cannot get a salary increase. I can't get a salary increase. Sean cannot get a salary increase. There are many, many people out there who cannot get a salary increase. Whose salary, hold on, I am so sorry to cut you short. who have had their salary cut over the COVID-19 pandemic, who didn't get their full salary and still had to work over the COVID-19 pandemic, just as all public servants and teachers. And you mean to tell me that you all have to be this way because you can't get an increase? Man, I wish I was getting the salary of a teacher.
You know what they always say, we haven't got an increase in X amount of years. I don't care about that. What is your salary now compared to the rest of the nation? Because at the end of the day, I don't really have a lot of pity for people who are doing this, using this sort of strategy to try to get a pay increase in a time where they have people who are on the breadline and are working poor. Now, are you teachers working poor, or are you home resting and reflecting? If you're out trying to source food and ways to get bread on the table, fine. But that's not what they're saying.
I need to rephrase. Not that I wish I get the salary of a teacher. No, I wish I had the contract like a teacher, because over the summer, August vacation, teachers say they have to prepare for the next semester, and over Christmas. Now, I wish I had that contract, boy. The salary is one thing. I wish I had the contract.
Oh, you get your full salary when other people didn't get your
COVID.
Yeah, you forgot that little detail.
Anyway, we have a caller on the line with us from Chaconas. Good morning, caller. Good morning, Professor.
I hope the next time you go to the bank, you meet somebody who is reflecting on what's
resting and reflecting, yeah.
Because everything you talk about this morning, I explained to you before, and of course you seem to conveniently forget. Like housing, for example. Not too long ago, I explained to you the question with accommodation, with affordability. And way back when in William's time, you had a formula to deal with combining town and country planning with property tax. And of course, that gone through the chute. We talk about roads and access. And I talked to you about how you had road authorities and whatnot. Now the Prime Minister come up with an in suggestion about he's going to pump some new road agency. The problem of road has nothing to do with that. The problem of the road has to do with when you had a road officer, he built up an expertise, he could put out a plan for maintenance and new roads and whatnot. How would this new agency do that? And everybody's right. And then last point, education. Again, education is only history. That is all education is. And we're supposed to learn from it. And our Prime Minister gets some of the best brains from the Trinidad to put up documents on our history, and he is now neatly hiding them. Right? You can't find any. Those gentlemen are the cause of these problems. Any questions before you go to the bank?
No, Professor. I would only say that I believe the reason is, just as what you said, so the officers with their responsibilities, or the public servants with their responsibilities, who will get the experience and build up their knowledge and proficiency, we don't have that anymore. Why? Because everything wants to be controlled by central government. Why? Because it's about budget and money, and then you have other questions which I won't necessarily directly talk about right now.
That hasn't worked.
Professor,
you're supposed to learn from that, and that is what education is, history.
Professor, let me tell you, I don't forget your points. You make some good points in the program. I think what it is that the wrong people are not hearing the good points that you make.
Yes.
You know, and that's why we'll continue to have these issues and problems.
The last one, you keep criticizing the union leaders and say the way they put over things. What you fail to remember, I told you this before, it works for them. That is why when Jackson Home closed down, their salaries was above par.
No, but
the way
Professor,
they get along.
Professor, I understood that it worked for them then, but right now, I don't know if it's working for them now.
Professor, because it worked for them in the past.
For me.
No, I know.
Exactly.
Because it worked for them.
I don't think the government could afford to give in to them now.
Why?
Because it worked for them.
Collect the revenue. That's the next point.
Oh Lord!
Because it worked for them in the past, Professor, does not make it right, and because of that, they've gotten away.
No. I understand. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about the union. I understand the professor's point. It's similar to my point, where our government communicates in the manner of which, because we respond and vote them in, or the opposition, the politicians. So I understand your point,
All right,
Professor.
Professor, thank you very much. Have a good one. Caller on the line with us from Diego Martin. Good morning, caller.
Hey guys, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Lovely to see you both looking well in the normal space with normal voices. And yes, I'm watching my TV today, so I don't say something dumb like last time.
It's okay, it's okay.
Young people living together earlier. That could be for 2 incomes, yes, but to do what? To rent, because they cannot afford their own homes.
Yeah.
And like your parents preached diligence and sacrifice and ambition and all of that. Mine did too. So at 30 years old, my dad was able to buy a big house in the suburbs and raise a family, but no more, because like you said, Sean, it is a different time. You've needed 2 degrees for a while now, but it's getting you nowhere, 2 or 3, because even the hundreds of scholars who were promised specific jobs under Patrick Manning's Vision 2020, hello, that kind of went away, and that was in order for us to be a progressive society. Those people have 2 and 3 degrees, but guess what? They've migrated because the country has deteriorated. They do not want to be here, you know. So we're not progressing in the way that we should have, and not because of Indians, like one of your callers commented last week, but I'm not going to get into that now. And by the way, Keaton, Liz Truss beat out Rishi by 15%, so we wait and see. Thanks. Goodbye.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, caller. Yes, I think that's... The demographics of that are interesting.
I did not want to
I'm just going to say...
about Liz Truss. And I will speak about Liz
I
Truss.
hope she's the right choice.
I will speak about Liz Truss.
In these trying times for the
Let
UK.
me finish speaking, sir. I will speak about Liz Truss tomorrow here on Talking Points. I will not comment now because there's a lot. Congratulations to her. You know, they elected her and democratically the process took place. But I will just state, as Foreign Secretary, I don't know what Boris Johnson was thinking, and as the Conservative Party, I have no clue what they were thinking. But then and again, you see that Tim Conservative, that alone probably says why she was elected, and not Rishi Sunak. We have one more caller, following which we'll have to take a commercial break. But good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I just called earlier. I want to say that I agree with that guy, I think Dave Tank, who is his name, as pertaining to the spotlight, where the minister said that they will spend so much $1 billion and whatnot. I think if the government wants us to believe them, they need to come with accountability and let us see where they spend this money. And if what they're saying it adds up to the truth. Because they're becoming that very questionable. Every time they say something, we have to be questioning them.
Yeah.
That should not be like that.
Yeah.
I am disappointed in tutor as well. I mean, you want to rest and reflect. Say you want to rest and relax, so say reflect. you want, the fact is that people, children, I mean, as children you're talking about, you must have a certain amount of humanity in you, man. You cannot have children like that coming out of school and nobody else attend to them. That is sort of kind of breakdown in the country. You all have been away from school for so long. You have been paid your salaries and whatnot. Please have a heart, no man. Think twice before you make these sorts of decisions. The children, they missed out so much time in school last 2 years. Please think of them. And they are the future of the nation, and we need them.
Certainly.
Guys, thank you for taking my call as normal, and you all have a good day. You're looking well, Sean, and I'm glad to see you. Let me so sprightly and back on track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Mr. Joseph. Good hearing from you, sir. All the very best.
Just quickly, again, we don't hear from the teachers complaining about how teaching is going or how the students are going. We don't hear anything else except the pay. That's all we hear about from them. But going back to the politicians and the spotlight and how that went, I just want to point out, I want to warn people, it's not that politicians lie. They don't lie. What they do is they omit details. Technically, they're not lying. Technically, their phrases are in line with the truth, but they omit the important details that give us the correct context or the correct detailed information.
Hence the reason why we can't say they lie.
So it's lying by omission, you can say that.
We say that they mislead.
Mislead, yes.
They mislead. And folks, we have to take a break on the program. When we return, we'll wrap things up for this morning's edition of Talking Point. We'll be right back after this.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Well, thank you very... I'm sorry, you look a bit confused.
No, it's just the last statement you made.
Yeah, our
don't
GDP since about 2015 has declined annually by 37 billion.
No, but was not GDP around 2014 or so, like in the 6 days?
No. You're thinking debt to GDP ratio.
No, I'm thinking GDP. I'm thinking to GDP.
No. Our
billion.
GDP at the end of 2015, I think, was 187 billion. Our GDP by the end of 2020...
Oh, no, sorry, I was thinking of the budget.
Was 150 billion.
Thinking of the budget.
I was confused for a second. Anyway.
Yeah,
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you very much to all our callers this morning. I'm Keaton Shaw, wishing you a great day ahead. Denise, thank you very much for calling and giving us a date. I'm so sorry you have to go through this, but I'm so sorry all the other parents and all the other students have to go through this. This is really, really unfortunate. And don't get me wrong, once I understand that teachers are dissatisfied, they're working on, 2013 salaries. Listen, I don't know how much more I can reason
some people
or
who have no
explain with
salaries.
teachers. I just don't know how much more I could do that. Quite frankly, I think the teachers are being selfish. I might face flack for that. That's my opinion. Honestly, unfortunately, students have to go to school, find the gates locked, or get a roster because the Minister of Education was not very clear when she stated that school was continuous, normal, but repairs will take place on an evening or on weekends. Honestly, I don't know what's going on in this country. All I know is that we're losing it. We are losing it. We are on our edge. Sean Michael Small, maybe you can cheer up the folks.
You want me to cheer up? Unfortunately, my intention was to just highlight we had 4 more COVID deaths yesterday. I don't necessarily keep track of it day to day, but once we get to the 4 or 5 numbers range, that's an indicator to me that it's, as much as we want to think it's effectively over, to some extent, it's still not. And also, I just want to highlight what happened at the Bricks Hotel on Friday. I just want to point out that, again, the senseless violence, there seemed to be no indication that the young lady who unfortunately lost her life was involved in any sort of activity to even give us any sort of potential explanation as to why she was involved in such a heinous act. She is just another victim, and I do have to ask, at what point are we going to say no more?
I wouldn't be so quick to jump to conclusions for any murder or killing in TNT. I think it's just very unfortunate that even in like the Bricks Hotel now, this means it could take place anywhere.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you have business people coming to try and to be able to stay.
No, but not just that.
That's one aspect of it which we're losing out big time.
The Bricks had a very good local business. I hope they're not necessarily affected by this.
I think they're going to be affected.
But unfortunately, it is what it is.
Maybe for a couple of days, but things will go back to a state of normalcy.
I mean, we'll see.
But
We'll see.
it should not be too difficult, and maybe I'm premature in solving this. Because if you think about that particular area, there'll be so many CCTV cameras, so much footage, that even if your car pick up the images of the individuals, you could trace back a number plate.
Keaton, it's Monday, it happened Friday. We haven't necessarily heard anything about that, have we?
That murder that took place on Thursday, that we spoke about on Friday morning, you would think the police will come and ask for CCTV footage. Up to now, they haven't done that.
I think
there's
there's a problem with CCTV footage in the courtroom. As one law lecturer told me, you know, depending on the quality of the image, that could be heavily or easily disputed in court. That's a whole other situation.
Fair enough, depending on the quality of the image.
Yes.
First instance, though, you have to see the image first before you make that argument.
That is true.
That has to be done. Folks, we're over time. Listen, as ironic as it may be, is today a good day to have a good day? I mean, every day is a good day to have a good day.
We should strive, Keaton, to make it so.
We could make it if we try. Have a great day, folks. Be safe, be careful out there. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.